Scotch College Adelaide offers a broad academic curriculum that caters to each student's interests and capabilities. Our students study subjects across the faculties of English, mathematics, science, the arts, languages, humanities and social sciences, technologies, and health and physical education. These faculties give students the flexibility to excel at traditional academic disciplines, while also catering to a wide variety of interests, such as drama, visual arts, business, music, agriculture, and much more. In 2021, Scotch students may choose from 57 subjects across the middle and senior school. Thanks to our progressive and innovative curriculum, Scotch students achieve excellent academic results. In 2019, an astounding 54 students achieved a tertiary admission rank of 90 or above. 8 of those students achieved a score of 99, placing them in the top 1% of the nation. The cohort also achieved 37 merits across 13 subjects. Our students' well-being, and that of those they will serve and influence, is at the heart of everything we do. From the Early Learning Centre to Year 12, Scotch has developed a holistic approach to well-being and positive education that ensures students develop the skills, mindset and behaviours that contribute to their social, physical, academic and emotional success.
All students can be successful within the SACE program. It's an internationally recognised qualification for everyone, where you will develop the skills needed to be successful at university and life beyond school. In Stage 2 or Year 12 of the SACE program, you will choose to study 5 subjects from a variety of areas, including the arts, business and technology, English, health, humanities, social sciences, languages, mathematics, and science. Depending on the subjects you choose, you will complete a range of assessments that will contribute to your overall grade and offer you a pathway to university.
Good afternoon. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Professor Martin Westwell, the Chief Executive of South Australian Certificate Education, SACE, and Dr. John Newton, Principal of Scotch College. And thank you very much for your time joining our webinar discussion today. So the Australian Grammar Schools in Vietnam, AGS, has been working in strategic partnership with the SACE International and Scotch International Educations, with a shared visions of bringing into Vietnam an excellent and sustainable education quality. So to increase our parents and student understanding and confidence in SACE International Education and reputations and Scotch academic excellence, I would like to ask a few questions about SACE and Scotch. So Professor Martin, could you please share with us what is a South Australian Certificate of Education, SACE? Who awards or issues the SACE?
Yeah, great. So this South Australian Certificate Education is designed as a modern and internationally recognised secondary school qualification, a pre-university qualification that gives students the skills and the knowledge and personal capabilities to thrive and succeed in their future. I think it really is the perfect preparation for any university pathway. It's awarded by the SACE board, and the SACE board is an agency of the South Australian government.
Yep. And so just a little bit more in terms of assessment and quality assurance. Can you share with us in details how SACE is assessed and the quality is assured, and how different it is compared to the other Year 11 and Year 12 program, such as Cambridge A-Level or IB, or the VCE in Victoria, or the HSCs in the New South Wales?
Yeah, so just as with those other qualifications, we're really tight on the standard. We really hold to a rigorous standard in the SACE. But I think one of the differences is the way in which in the SACE we can be a bit more flexible on how that standard is met. And one of the ways in which that we show that is that the SACE, 30% of the final student grade comes from an examination or some other form of external assessment. And actually 70% of that final grade comes from school-based assessment. But we know that we have to have, and we do have, a really rigorous quality assurance process that goes on behind that. And what that means is that a particular piece of student work, it doesn't matter if that student work is coming from Australia, from Vietnam, or from elsewhere in the world, that that piece of work will receive the same grade no matter where it comes from. And so that quality assurance process is really important to us to make sure that everyone can have trust in the SACE and in the grades that students get, and can have that confidence, but also that it's fair as well. So students are really being compared against a standard and not against each other. So I think that's another difference. Really, the standard is very clear. The description of what an A looks like in a subject is very clear, and we'll compare the student work to that description of an A or a B or a C to make sure that the student gets the right grade. They're not being compared with other students. Students that I've talked to in the SACE International program outside of Australia have actually talked to me about the difference between perhaps the SACE and the A-levels, where some schools might be offering those. And the students that are doing the SACE, I've asked them, why are you doing the SACE? And what they tell me is that they think it's a better preparation for university, because the work that they have to do in their school-based assessment, the assignments that they have to do, are very much like the work that they will have to do at university. So we really feel that we're setting students up for success when they're doing the SACE and the sorts of assessments that we've got in the SACE.
Thank you, Professor Martin. And now I would like to ask Dr. John Newton about Scotch. So can you please share with us about Scotch College? So like when Scotch was founded, and what are the visions and characters that make Scotch different?
Thank you, Hua. I'd like first of all to back up what Martin said about the SACE. It is a system that I know well now as a school principal here, but I introduced the IB in my last school as well as doing A-levels when I was a headmaster in the UK. I love the SACE's flexibility. I love its rigor and its breadth. It has a very good variety of school-based and examination-based qualifications and tests. And I absolutely agree, it prepares well for university. I've sent 2 of my children back to the UK to university with the SACE, and they've coped and survived and thrived, in fact, because of their preparation through the SACE. So I can really recommend it as a father, as well as a school principal. As for Scotch, well, we were 100 years old in 2019, and that makes us one of the most, one of the oldest schools and most prestigious schools here in South Australia. We are in the hills of South Australia, just above the city. We have a wonderful view over the city and a high quality site with lots of greenery and lots of space for our children and our students to enjoy their education. But one metaphor I use about Scotch more than anything is it's a village. It's a way of life as a school. We don't just teach in classrooms. We also create other activities or co-curricular activities, not just sports and music and drama, but also other things that stimulate young people's minds so they can understand a bit more about the subjects they're studying and understand why they're studying them. So for example, we had an excellent medical conference here at the end of semester 1 in June, when we invited the 3 universities to come and display their best research and to talk to our students. What was unique about that event wasn't just the fact that schools don't tend to do those sorts of things, but also the fact that students ran the whole event. What's characteristic about Scotch is a trust and a bond between the students and the staff. Every school has a warmth and a sense of community? Of course it does. But we actually cooperate with our young people in how we organise significant events. So their academic work, which is rigorously taught in class, which is taught to a high standard, is combined with activities where they can expand their knowledge and be ready for the world outside. So we have politicians who come to speak at our school. We do events such as entrepreneurship. We have a huge international program with 7 other schools around the world, and we run conferences online with those other schools to learn about what they do. We also have a very strong service dimension in the students getting involved in the local community. These are characteristics of a school which trusts its students and communicates well with them in order to enhance their learning and create a way of life in this extraordinary village.
Thank you, Dr. John. That's very impressive. And we also know that Scotch is very well known for its cultures and innovation. So could you please share with us a little bit more about the innovations approach in teaching and learning that has created a signature learning experience to Scotch students?
Yes, we have a number of signature learning experiences that go from the junior school to the senior school. We don't stick rigidly always to the timetable because we believe we can add value by doing different activities at different times. The Peace Game, for example, is one event that we set up in Year 5 with very young students who are provided with stiff and difficult challenges about how to resolve world problems, and they play different roles in those tasks. It takes a whole week for them to achieve their assignments, but they gain an incredible sense of global awareness as well as working in teams to solve problems. In the senior school, we have what's called the Nine and Scotch program. What's also unique about Scotch is that we have a farm here. We have a farm, and we use that not just to teach agriculture, but also to teach nutrition and responsible use of the world's resources. That's linked to our physical and mental health programs, as well as our regard and our thrust towards service and global awareness. That's an innovation in the school, which is enabling our students to take their strong physical and mental well-being and spread that power across the planet. Because well-being is at the heart of what we do. Well-being drives performance. It drives excellence. It drives engagement and purpose. It drives a sense of excitement. And Martin and I heard Martin talk about this recently, about the sense of school belonging, enhancing academic performance. No one told me at Manchester Grammar what I was studying for. I had to work that out for myself. We are very strong here in explaining to our young people what vocation and direction they can go in with their skills and what impact they can have. And that isn't just in terms of your standard sciences or maths areas or engineering or business. It's also in the creative subjects, which SACE does extraordinarily well. They have wonderful curricula and study areas that we can pursue in fashion and filmmaking and art and home economics and those sorts of things, all of the multi-billion-dollar industries around the world. So what we like to innovate in at Scotch is that richness, that direction, that excitement about learning, so they get better grades, they get better places at university, but they also have a sense of purpose and direction.
Thank you, Dr. John. It's very impressive. It says that Scotch has a very dynamic curriculum and a strong focus in student well-being, and that creates a student who are very well-rounded. Now, I would like to get back to Professor Martin. And so related to SACE, can you share with us a little bit more about SACE pathway to university? So does SACE provide a pathway to university outside Australia and, other countries like US and UK and so on?
Yeah, thanks, Hua. Of course, we would love students to come and study here in South Australia, but what we've seen is that the SACE offers a real seamless transition for students from school to universities around the world. There have been students who've studied the SACE who've gone on to universities in the UK, across Europe, in the USA, Canada, all across the world. It really is a global certificate. And I think what we're starting to see is that it's recognized more and more, not just because of the academic standards that universities, of course, expect from a certificate like the SACE, but what we're seeing is that the students that they're getting, they can recognize them as SACE students because of, I think, some of the things that John's just been talking about, because of the way in which schools like Scotch use the flexibility in the SACE to produce young people that universities want to teach. Young people that can really get the most out of a university experience in the top universities around the world.
Yep. Thank you, Professor Martin. And just a little bit more about, so what is the future development of SACE, especially in the international market?
Yeah. So I think in the future, of course, what we will do is we will keep a focus on the disciplines and on the skills and knowledge that students learn within those disciplines. Those are absolutely underpinning requirements for students to be able to go on into their future and thrive. But I do know myself, having been a lecturer at Oxford University, for example, and being involved in admissions there, that the universities are looking for more than just that academic excellence. And so we've been working to make sure that through the SACE, students are learning both that academic excellence, but also some of the development of some of those other capabilities. We've been working with organizations such as the OECD and UNESCO around the future of education. And so the SACE as a modern certificate is really making sure that it's taking the best of the traditions of the past and adding to it the best of what we can see in the future, and broadening the curriculum and the certificate to make sure that we're broadening our students. We want to make sure that every student has the opportunity to develop their capabilities and to thrive, and to show that to the world, what they can do with what they've learned in order to make a really positive transition, yes, to university, but also to build the building blocks, to take the building blocks and build a future beyond that, so that they can go through university, develop those graduate qualities, and then go on and have an impact in the world beyond that.
I'm very impressed with SACE strategic visions in preparing the student to become a very, global mindset citizens. They're very impressed to learn. Now I would like to get back to Dr. Johns. Can you share with us a little bit more about the working environments at Scotch? What really makes the Scotch, the employee of Scotch start to get inspiring and motivated to work at Scotch?
Yes, absolutely. We have a people promise as part of our people and culture. We don't call it human resources, we call it people and culture, because we believe it's more than just administering people's applications to work here and dealing with employee issues. It's about developing our staff and our teachers and our professional services staff to be part of this community, to work towards the success of the young people. We want to be an employer of choice and a leader in innovation and genuine people practices. So we want our staff to flourish, to enjoy being at work, to be effective in work, because it's good in itself, but it's also good for our organization, to be physically adept, mentally resilient, and intrinsically motivated and highly skilled. This is how we review our staff. These are the conversations we have with our staff. Do you have the autonomy, the power to make decisions? Are things hindering you from doing your work expertly? Do we have a good plan for you in your career? Are we training you appropriately? Are we consulting you appropriately? These are matters that are on our minds at all times. And it's something I personally, as the principal, get involved in for both professional services and teachers. But one thing is slightly unusual about Scotch is that it's not just me or my middle leaders who review the performance of teachers. My students also judge their teachers. And this is a critical piece of students, what we call student agency. Students feel they have an investment in the quality of teaching they receive, and therefore they judge their teachers twice a year, and they tell us that their teachers are knowledgeable, they tell us that our teachers care for them, they tell us that they're not afraid of asking questions. I think that's a strength of this school and a sign of the trust we have between teachers and students.
Thank you. And get back to Dr. John Newton. I have two more questions to ask. So could you please share with us about the international student at Scotch? What are the number of local and international students? And what is the Scotch reputation in the international market?
We want our reputation to be very strong internationally. When I arrived at the school, we had only about 10 students who came from overseas. We aspire to have about 40 to 50 of them. They're not all here right now because of COVID restrictions and travel restrictions. But they then go through a rigorous English language training, but also we can make sure they do their maths or their physics and they stay in class and they join a house group. They're part of the sport and the music and the drama. They're not going away to town and back again over 6 or 8 weeks or even 10 weeks or a whole term and missing out on school life. Therefore, the number of students is greater. The quality of students is greater because they're getting better teaching, and their engagement with the school is critical. We have great student leadership amongst our international students. They're college-known individuals. They help us understand different cultural dynamics and principles and routines and celebrations. We understand them, that they think differently from us. This is important to me, Hua, because I'm a linguist. I'm a French and Russian teacher, and I've traveled the world learning, using my languages, but also appreciating how other cultures function. And it's a really wonderful thing when students realize that the world does not necessarily think like you. The world thinks differently, and that is a perfectly valid way to think. If we don't have a more harmonious world, a world which understands each other, so many problems occur in our world, Hua, because we refuse to understand somebody else's point of view. It's critical. And as we see world events taking place around us in Afghanistan, with COVID, or whatever it might be, we need to have a global perspective for our young people. It's a very, very important thing. And these international students come here to our school, and they come from all over parts of Asia, from Thailand. We even have British students here, including my own, Vietnam, China, South Korea. We have these students with us, and we value them, and they value us, and we develop a strong bond with them. Why do they come? Because Adelaide is a safe and orderly place. It's an exceptional city, one of the top cities in the world to live in, I ought to say, a most livable city. It's had an outstanding response to the pandemic, and we have an enviable reputation as a school of choice, and we work hard with our agents to give quality of life and quality experience to these young people, because it's a great benefit for them and a great benefit for us.
Yep, thank you, Dr. John. That's a wonderful experience for the international student too. Yes, and could you please share with us a little bit more about the parents community and the student alumni at Scotch, and just briefly, what would be the Scotch plan for the future?
Okay, well, I'll talk about the parents first. We have exceptional parents here. Now, why do I say that? It's because we have about 20 parent support groups here. We invite parents into the school to support various sporting activities, cultural activities, P&F, fundraising matters. They want to be involved. My job is to run not just a school of nearly 1,200 students, but also 2,400 parents, 4,800 grandparents. So our parents are very involved in us. I say to my other CEO colleagues that you don't have your customers driving into your factory every day. Well, I do. And they come and watch sport, they come and see the shows, they come and visit for other reasons. And I'm constantly talking to them and being with them because they add immense value to this place, to this village that I've talked about. They come from the professions, they're business people, they're entrepreneurs. You'll meet them in the legal firms, you'll meet them in the engineering firms. We like the vibrancy of our parents, and they add huge value to what we do, and they contribute massively to what we do. In terms of future plans, well, that's a very easy question to answer. We're about to build a $26 million building. In fact, we're about 8 months now into its construction. It's the Wellbeing and Sports Centre. If you go on our website, you'll see some images and some films of us building this beautiful place. A Wellbeing and Sports Centre is not a sports centre. So we will have flexible learning spaces, breakout spaces, where whole year groups and whole groups of young people can learn about well-being, because well-being is not about like learning physics or French vocabulary. It's a soulful, immersive experience. So there needs to be a flexible learning area for them to do that. They engage well, they pass lots of Martin's exams, they get involved in all the various things that we do in school, they participate in the village, and they go on to do the things that Martin has precisely talked about, that sense of showing the best of you at university and going on to great things. While we are living in a very changing world, we need to produce young people who have strong mental health and great versatility, and therefore SACE and the Wellbeing Philosophy of Scotch, we think, work harmoniously towards that end.
Thank you, Dr. John. That's very impressive, very inspiring too, especially with the new construction well-being. How much is it? 26 million?
Yes, $20 million. It'll be 2 sports courts. It'll be a couple of swimming pools, lots of small gyms. There'll be lots of that. And because we live in the hills above Adelaide, the views will be magnificent. And your well-being will be lifted simply by walking in the building. In fact, this morning we've just announced that we are going to be the first school in the country to have core accreditation at the Living Building Challenge. It will be an environmentally responsible building and be a flagship, not just in terms of provision, but in terms of its environmental responsibility.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Professor Martin and Dr. John Newton. I appreciate there's a lot of insightful and valuable information today, and I trust that the parents and the student and other stakeholders would be benefited a lot from this information that you're sharing. So again, thank you, and we appreciate for your time. Thank you very much.